It's a country so small its name doesn't fit inside it. A bazillion years ago, Abraham, a nomadic visionary with a thin resume, has a hot idea for the first Israeli startup, a belief in one God. Needless to say, his stock tanks. Abraham persists, and when he's not persisting, he's begetting. His offspring moved to Egypt because there are jobs, food, and beautiful beaches there, sort of an early Miami. But there's a snag. The jobs don't pay, and the hours are murder. The Egyptians enslaved the Israelites for hundreds of years until Moses, a great leader with a questionable sense of direction, unenslaves them and returns them to Canaan. En route to Canaan, the Israelites constantly bellyache. Tired of their whining, Moses climbs Mount Sinai. He becomes the first human to download data from the cloud to a tablet and returns with the 10 Commandments, a moral code to share with the world. Wow, thanks. The 11th commandment, thou shalt not bitch, does not make the cut. Once in Canaan, the Philistines, a people of Greek heritage, not to be confused with today's Palestinians, are the Israelites' fiercest enemies. One day, a huge son of a bitch named Goliath challenges the Israelites to a winner-takes-all match. The smart money is on Goliath, but he is whooped by a diminutive shepherd sharpshooter called David. #Israelites for the win. The Israelites anoint David king, who makes Jerusalem Israel's capital. Yep, that's 1,000 years BC. The UN immediately condemns this as an immoral and irresponsible act that is meant to provoke the Palestinians. Not really. There was no UN, and 3,000 years would go by before the Palestinians would try to usurp this land. David's son Solomon builds the temple in Jerusalem. The temple has a good 400-year run playing to packed houses until the Babylonians destroy it. Most of the Jews are forced into exile. After 50 years in exile, the Jews are liberated by the Persians and are allowed to return home. They build a new temple atop the ruins of the first. Then Alexander the Great, a great Greek king and, you guessed it, another invader, destroys Persia and takes over Judea. The Jews and Alexander's heirs get along great until another Greek king, Antiochus the Not-So-Great, says, "Enough with the one God thing. All hail Zeus and friends." The Jews revolt and clobber the Greeks. Antiochus amasses a huge army and threatens the Jews. The Jews send a reply, "Fight me. We did not take any foreign territory. We merely recovered our ancestral lands." The Jews prevail and rededicate the temple. But how long can a good thing last in this neighborhood? A century later, Rome is at the gates and Judea becomes its vassal state. A Jewish baby named Jesus is born in Bethlehem. Jesus has new ideas, but he's accused of sedition. The Roman prefect sentences him to death. The new Jewish sect grows and becomes Christianity, which gives the world the gifts of bacon, eternal salvation, and a whole new set of books. The Jews tire of the Roman rule and finally say, "Enough already." They revolt against Rome. The Romans demolish the Jewish rebels and for good measure, and for absolutely no good reason, also pillage and demolish the Second Temple. 60 years later, the Jews ask for a rematch and beat the crap out of the Romans. The Romans send in the big guns, who ironically have no guns, and beat the crap out of the Jews again. The Romans take 2 out of 3. #not winning. This time, the Roman emperor decides to be a real pain in the butt. He scatters many of the Jews throughout the Roman Empire, and in the first of very many deliberate falsifications of history, he changes the area's name to, wait for it, Syria Palestina, after the Greek Philistines who became extinct 800 years earlier. So Palestine was not a people. It's a made-up name the Roman emperor maliciously attached to Judea, Israel, the land of the Jews. We'll get back to that later. Answer this. The Jews are occupying Palestine. True or false? Or bullshit. It's bullshit. The Jews are the aboriginal people of Judea. Like Greeks in Greece, Native Americans in America, Chinese in China, Jews can't occupy Judea. The quiz is over, and so is Rome. Karma sucks. With much of the Jewish population scattered, Muhammad, a charismatic leader, appears in what is now Saudi Arabia and unites diverse nomadic Arab tribes under the banner of Islam. After Muhammad's death, his followers conquer the land of Israel and build the Al-Aqsa Mosque atop the ruins of the first and second Jewish temples, Judaism's holiest site. Next up, the Dark Ages. Not a good time to be Jewish. The Middle Ages. Still very dark. Jews take the rap for the Romans' killing of Jesus and are subjected to random killing sprees, mob riots, expulsions, and monstrous persecution. Christian crusaders spend years trying to conquer Jerusalem from the Muslims. As soon as they succeed, they promptly begin to slaughter the Muslims and the Jews. Next, this total Kurd Saladin takes Jerusalem from the Crusaders. And wait, write this down. Saladin is not an Arab. He's a Kurd, born in today's eastern Turkey. Palestine is still just a misnamed geographical area. If some peddler of an alternate reality tells you that there was an independent Palestinian state or kingdom or whatever, you can politely ask him, what borders did it have? Who ruled it? From when to when did it exist? The squirming to try to explain it will be illuminating. Food for thought. If Palestine were some ancient Arab country, they probably would have had a different name for it. Just as there are Arabic sounds with no equivalent sounds in English, in the Arabic alphabet, not a single Arabic word has the P sound in it. Google it. Knock knock. Who's there? It's the Ottoman Turks. Their turn to conquer the Holy Land. They rule corruptly and peacefully for 400 years. So what happened to the Jews? Despite all attempts to eliminate, exterminate, exile, and forcibly convert the Jews, they consistently and continuously maintained a presence in the land of Israel. Jews from almost every country under the sun, in ghettos in Poland, under the Inquisition in Spain, and in concentration camps across Europe, focus their prayers on Israel, the only place where they have been able to do what every nation does, construct their own society according to their own ideals. Ready for a question?
Okay.
Jerusalem is just as sacred to the Muslims as it is to the Jews. True or false? 5 Pinocchios. Jerusalem is mentioned over 800 times in the Bible and 0 times in the Quran. 0 as in zip, nada, nil, not even once.